We're going to go deep today, and you're going to learn how your actions shape your identity one rep at a time. I want you to walk away from this video with a clear understanding of yourself, how you've been conditioned, how you show up, and how that's led you to create the life you have. I then want to show you how to break free from the trap and how to actually make long-lasting changes, how to get your life in alignment with where you want it to be and the obstacles you need to face along the way. It's going to be very practical. I'll be showing you some diagrams and really trying to give you a clear framework and perspective here. So first of all, we all try to achieve goals. At least most of us have goals we want to achieve. So why don't we just go about and do them? What gets in the way? We quickly realize that we fall to the level of our identity. We act in a certain way. We have certain ways of showing up. And moment to moment, we've kind of conditioned ourselves to behave in certain ways. We're good at certain things, we're bad at certain things, and we have this kind of fixed version of who we are. And when we want to make meaningful changes in our life, we need to change this. We need to change how we're showing up. We need to change our identity. So let's start by exploring what is identity. So identity to me is the character you're showing up as, that default version of you. It's the stories you tell yourself about, this is who I am. This is who you are about your health, your career, your relationships, this inbuilt way of showing up. And it's very formed by your adult years, and we don't question it so much. It's generally a set of beliefs in certain areas that all package together to form who you think you are. And on some levels, it does us good. It allows us to function well in the world, allows us to show up in certain ways that are beneficial. But very quickly, when you explore it, you realize identity will always limit. It will always keep us trapped. And very often, most of us have not put much effort or intentionality into creating our identity. So your identity kind of forms in your early childhood, then you start to recondition it through your adolescent years, and then by your adult years, it's just you. You stop questioning it. You start moving, you stop trying to change, or you try to make change, but you hit resistance. And you end up with a very fixed self. And then you try to make changes, and you wonder why you can't. So let's have a look at how it looks in terms of a framework. So the first diagram I want to show you is the current you. So if we look here on the left-hand side, we have the identity. This is who you think you are. And downstream of that is beliefs. And beliefs are these bundles of thoughts in certain areas. I'm good at this, I'm bad at that, I'm in good shape, I've got this career, all these beliefs that we create of ourselves. Some move us forward and some hold us back. From there, we've got our emotions, how it makes us feel, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about certain tasks, certain goals we're taking on. And then from this drives our actions. Actions come in terms of how we're showing up in the world, which impacts our reality. All right, so we've got this downstream effect from your identity down to the actions you take. And you can look at this for any area of your life and you'll see it play out. Now those actions then impact the world. All right, when we take action, we're now playing a two-player game of interacting with our environment, and we're creating our reality through our actions. Now with that, there's a feedback loop. So once you act in a certain way, you get feedback, life gives you a bit of reinforcement or negative reinforcements, and then that reinforces the identity. All right, so let's think of it in terms of your fitness goals. Let's say you're someone who works out a lot. So your identity is, I'm someone who works out. I keep in good shape. So that's inside of the beliefs. The emotions, when you go to the gym or you think about going to the gym, you're like, yes, I'm strong. I like going to the gym. I'm good at this. So your emotions feel a positive state. Actions you take, you go to the gym, you work out, you look after yourself. And then in reality gives you the good body. You look good, you feel good because you're showing up in that way. That then reinforces the identity where you go, yeah, see, here is me showing up. See, here is me in good shape. And that identity gets solidified. All right, so we end up with this identity playing out and then getting reinforced by our actions after a downstream effect. Now, this is good when our identity is aligned with our reality, when we are the version of ourselves we want to be in that area. But what happens when we want to change? What happens when the identity isn't who we want to be? What happens when we want to drop that identity? Well, we think we can just set a goal. We think we can just create a new identity. Maybe it's a new year and you go, right, new year, new me. So you go down this path, and this is the fantasy reinvention. So it looks something like this. You have your new identity now, and you feel like because it's new you, you'll just have new beliefs, new thoughts, new ways of showing up, and then new emotions. All right, you feel more motivated, more inspired, and ready to go after your goals. That will lead you to change your habits, change your routines, change your way of acting, and then you'll have a new reality, and that will reinforce that new identity. It's going to be this big flipping of a switch, and everything will align. And sometimes this can happen, but very often you'll start to see that it doesn't work that way. You try to be a new version of yourself, but you actually have pushback. You actually don't have the belief that you can do it. The emotions don't feel good. You don't feel as inspired as you want to be each day, and the actions get harder and harder to come by. So we realized that we want to change, but now we're like, wait a second, it's really hard. There's things in the way. So I want to show you what I think is a more true, accurate representation of what happens when you try to change. And it's not as glamorous, but it's going to give you a very powerful tool and framework to push back on. So the reality of change is more like this. We set a new identity, all right? So who we want to be going forwards, but then we have this gap between the old beliefs and the old emotions that are creating resistance from taking the action, all right? So let's say you haven't been in good shape and you want to get in good shape. And you're right, new me, let's do it. So you've set the new identity of who you want to be, but now all those old thoughts of you always fail at this, you've always been out of shape, you never do this, start to come up. Feelings like, oh, don't feel like going to the gym, don't feel like eating well, they're starting to push back. And the new actions, you need to get past those to get the new actions, all right? So as you can see, once you take the new actions, the new reality starts to get reinforced, and over time that reinforces the new identity. So the short term, we end up in this kind of tug of war game between wanting to be a new self, but facing resistance from the old self, resistance between who we want to be going forwards. And we want to just flip a switch and change, but now we're like, what do I do? All right, so in this scenario, it's really important to realize every moment you're making a bet. Every moment you're strengthening either the old self or the new self. All right, and the old self is conditioned patterns that wants to show up in a predictable way. The new self is the one that's trying to make change, but facing resistance because the old patterns are still strong. So I really love this story of a parable of two wolves that really highlights the importance of this. So it goes like this. A grandfather tells his grandson, inside me are two wolves. One is full of fear, laziness, and doubt. The other is full of courage, discipline, and love. The boy asks, which one wins? The grandfather replies, the one you feed. This is identity in motion. This is what it means to choose the identity you want to become. This is the one you feed. The identity you feed is the one that becomes stronger. Now, the challenge you have is the old identity is in its full form. It's done 1,000 reps. It's very resistant. The new self feels like a new role. It feels like not you yet. And you've got to have conscious effort to override it. So as default, the old self wins. It runs on automatically, runs on autopilot, and you will not beat the old self without effort. The new self, you need conscious attention. You need to effortlessly remind yourself. You need discipline. You need that short-term focus of I will show up as this self and I will overcome the old self. So this is what I really feel is so important and so missed, that the actions, if we can just forget how we're feeling, forget the beliefs, we focus on the new identity, and the actions we take, we can change the whole game. All right, we can really reinforce it. So the goal is to choose identity and choose the actions that align with it until it becomes who you are. All right, so I want to go for an example of how I discovered this. And one of my kind of big breakthroughs was when I was struggling with money most of my life. In my early 20s, I was always broke. As a student, I had overdrafts and maxed out everything, always found ways to spend more than I had access to. And this narrative played out for quite a while. So then I got into playing professional poker, and I finally started making good money. So I was like, yes, all my money problems will go away. But they didn't. I found ways to spend all the money I made again. And at the end of months, even years, I was still broke, still having very little. And it really started frustrating me because now I was making money and I still didn't have any. So in this frustration, I decided I was going to do something about it. And I decided I was going to make one small change. I was going to set up a separate account, a savings and investing account, and I was going to have an automated standing order that moved £100 from my old account to my new account. At this time, I was like, 100, yeah, I can probably do that and probably not notice it. And I did it, and I didn't notice. And a year passed by, roughly a year, maybe 8 months, and I was like, wow, I've got money building up. And this quickly made me realize, okay, so now I'm saving money. Maybe I'm not as bad with money as I thought. And then I started to double it. And then I tripled it. And now I had this standing order that was putting a significant amount of money into a different account. And I started to get curious about where it was going. I started to read books. I started to learn about investment strategies. I started to learn about compound interest and how that would work over periods of time. And now I'm thinking, wow, I wasn't bad with money. I just didn't have a clue. And now, instead of having the beliefs and the kind of emotions to back it up, I've now got the new identity of I want to be someone who's good with money. And I've got these actions which are correlating, and they're just reinforcing over and over, I must be good with money because I'm investing. I must be good with money because I'm acting in reality. So this is where it's really important to act in accordance with the new identity, regardless of anything else. All right, so when I was broke, I could have really thought, well, I don't have £100 to save right now. I can't think about this stuff. I've got other things going on. And it did feel like that. I remember the early months, I felt that way. But I took action in alignment with somebody who was good with money, who would be investing, who would be saving. And quickly that started to reinforce and become a powerful reinforcing loop. So think about it for another example, like health and fitness. Let's say you're someone who's always been overweight. That's challenging, right? Because the identity's formed. The beliefs are, I'm always struggling with what I eat. I can't exercise. Maybe you've got certain injuries. And the story's very strong. And the emotion that goes with that is, I can't do this. Doesn't work for me. And the actions, they correlate. Eat what you want or binge eat. It's periods of time and you don't exercise that much. So now let's say we were going to do the same thing and we're going to have a new identity. Let's say it's a new version of you who's going to keep showing up in the world. Now you focus on the actions you need to take to reinforce that new identity. So again, it's not one-on-one go, it's one moment by moment. So let's say it's an option in the morning or in your day to go to the gym or not go to the gym. Now the old identity versus the new identity, they come head to head. If you're able to go to the gym, even when you didn't feel like it, even your mind was saying, this isn't going to work, I'm an idiot, you've just strengthened the new self. Then what happens? You impact reality. Reality impacts your identity, and you go, wait a second, I just went to the gym again. All right, maybe I'm not so bad with my health. Maybe I could get in shape if I kept this going. And you start to reinforce the new identity with your actions. The same with your eating habits. You go, wait a second, I've made good choices for the last 2 days. That's really good. That's reinforcing your identity. And the key with this, because the wins feel very small, whereas the old identity's got a whole years and years of experience to touch from, the new identity you're creating, it may not have one example, 2 examples, maybe you're just getting started with a new habit routine. You've got to really reinforce it. Reinforce, well done, I'm doing good, I'm finally changing. Anytime the mind teaches you you're not, you've got to push back. So when you're trying to make change, which people don't anticipate or think about, they'll try to make change when they're motivated. Yes, I feel inspired. Yes, let's do it. But they don't realize they'll have moments of weakness where the old self gets very strong. And you want to skip the workout. Or you do skip the workout. You binge eat at night. And the old self goes, see, told you this wasn't going to work. See, just like you always do. This is not going to work. Just quit it right now. Eat what you want. It doesn't work for you. You've proven it again. This way, you've got to really push back and go, oh, one example. That's the old self trying to stay alive. That's the old self trying to enforce a narrative. But in reality, it was just one day. And I'm going to reinforce tomorrow the new self. So you've just done one bad rep for the old self. No big deal. Tomorrow, next moment you go back to the new self. All right? And this is how it's done. This is how change really happens. It happens moment by moment. And you get those reps in for this new self by aligning the new identity with the new action. You get past the resistance of beliefs. You get past the resistance of how you feel. And you just show up over and over. And when you do that, at first it sucks. At first it needs a lot of discipline. But over time, that new identity starts to solidify. That new identity starts to go, oh, this is actually working. Or you go, wow, I am showing up in the way I said I was. And then the results start to mirror that. And now it's becoming a fully formed part of you. Now you're starting to really step into it. And rather than something in your mind, which are generally new identities in your mind to begin with, it actually becomes who you are. You're somebody who works out. When you work out long enough, like I've been working out since I was 11, 3-4 times a week, at least. And now I'm 38, 37, and I don't think about exercise in terms of a habit I need to do. I always go to the gym. I always go for runs. I always work out because it's just who I am. It's not something I need to do. It's just part of my identity. Like brushing your teeth at night. You don't think, oh, I need to make sure I brush my teeth. You've done it so often, it just becomes who you are. And that's what happens. These new identities, you start to take them on, but it happens step by step. All right, so push past that initial resistance. Every moment is an opportunity. Stay conscious, stay aware, stay alert. Every moment is a chance to choose the new version of you that you want to be, or the old version. You're putting a bet on. You're doing a rep for one of them. Feed the wolf, as the parable said. That's going to actually take you towards your goals. And when you don't make a big deal. Don't worry that you fall off one day, one moment, and get back the next time. And over time, you can make big changes. So this is how your actions align with your identity. This is the challenge most of us face, and this is how to override it.